Let me first of all start by welcoming the Secretary General of the African Development Bank, Professor Vincent Nimehiere. Let me pronounce it the way I like it, Nimehiere, and the bank delegation to the signing ceremony of the Memorandum of Understanding on hosting the African Development Bank Group 2024 annual meetings. I do believe that this is a very, very important aspect, and we do believe that we have to actually use this to actually appreciate the African Development Bank. But before I even do that, let me say that the Secretary General introduced me as the chair of the African Development Bank Group Boards of Governors. And it's a position and responsibility I took over last year this year in May, when we met in Sharm el-Sheikh, and the governor then from Egypt was handing over to me, so that I take responsibility, and I take the whole group to the May 2024 annual meetings. So it's a responsibility that Kenya has to make sure that this works. And that's why he actually referred to me as the chair of the boards of governors of the African Development Bank Group. Let me also, in the same vein, register our sincere appreciation of the African Development Bank Group for the cordial relationships and even continuous support to our development agenda of this country. We actually refer to the African Development Bank as a real development partner for Kenya. We have even a relationship at personal level because of that relationship. Professor and I even relate to each other, and so many of the staff in the African Development Bank as real partners. We rely on them even on emergency issues. Let me indicate to you that this is a culmination of the bilateral meetings that have been held by our team, which is an interministerial task team and of government ministries, departments, and agencies to discuss and ascertain the hosting requirements of the 2024 annual meetings. Our team was led by Principal Secretary for Economic Planning, James Mohati. And I'm very happy that he has led that team with a lot of efficiency. But it's also a promise that it is the work, we are starting the work. Memorandum of Understanding means that we have to start the work in earnest. Let me also appreciate the team coming from the African Development Bank, but it's also important to deal with the key aspects that have been covered in this mission. They included checking on the conference facilities and even physical visits at Kenyatta International Conference Center, where we are now, even to ascertain the resources and even the quality of the resources that are there at the facility. Checking on the protocol and hospitality, which included looking at issues from immigration, airport reception, custom duty exemptions as per the diplomatic privileges of most of the diplomats who will be coming. You can be sure that all the ministers of finance from Africa will have to be here because they are the governors. It's not a small number. They will come with their delegates. We have other investors who are members and shareholders of the African Development Bank coming from all over the world. They will be here. A whole week of activities. So we have to check all those facilities are in order. They also checked on the availability of accommodation, catering, and hospitality facilities, venues that are very, very important, and even how to sample some of the star hotels, like Villa Rosa. They even sampled hotels like Kempiske, Sankara, Moving, all those hotels. And Kenya, we are known for this. We are a good destination, so we have a lot of diversity to offer. But we make sure, since between now and the coming months, we can only improve on the facilities that we have. Please don't ask us to develop new hotels. It may take a bit of time, but what we have to make sure that they are at their optimal best, isn't it? A whole week of hosting those guests is going to be quite involving, and that's why I'm telling my Kenyan counterparts that that's why we had to do this exercise. And of course, look at security and safety. That's for the government. And then also accreditation center in Charter Hall, especially from Nairobi City County offices, because at the end of the day, they are the host, but we are supporting them as government. Look at ground and air transport and even logistics. Again, being a destination of choice, this is a very convenient place, but of course we have to improve on the facilities. ICT and communication and even the media is going to be a very important dimension. But more importantly, looking at the health and medical services in terms of how we cater for the guests. All these are very, very important, including what kind of hospitals and even more mobile clinic that can be asked to, can be requested to join us in cases of emergency. Social and cultural events, we have diversity of that, but of course it was good to parade them and show, and even how we can hold knowledge events on the theme of the annual meeting. So we have to align with the theme of the annual meeting so that we have some time to prepare and be ready for. Let me also acknowledge in the main team is the KICC venue and the KCC management, because I think what you are seeing now is what actually we managed to get through for the Africa Climate Summit 23. We worked very hard to make sure that we deliver. It was the 3-day visit, but it required a lot of work to do. But we do know now that we have a starting point. We are not starting from zero, isn't it, my friends? You have seen what we have. Let me say that we are going to make it happen. Let me also say that this KICC has a history. You know, next week, I remember that because next week we are going to annual meetings of the IMF and the World Bank. It means all the global finance ministers across the world will be there. All the governors of central banks will be there, among other people, isn't it? But the first time, the last time we'll be in Marrakech this time. The last time these meetings, the annual meetings of the World Bank and the IMF were held in Africa was 50 years ago, and they were held in this center, KICC Center. The then President President Jomo Kenyatta organized a fundraising, what we call in Swahili, Harambee, to actually construct this building for purposes of hosting the first, the annual meeting of the World Bank and the IMF. So in a sense, Mr. Secretary General will also be asking the IMF and the World Bank, after 50 years, this is the time you're coming back to Africa, what have you come with? That's another debate anyway, but it's interesting to have that in mind. But I wanted to put this KICC in context. So it is old, but sometimes old is gold, but we have to tweak it a little. We have to spend a bit of resources and expertise, and we have been promised that there's no expertise that we will require that we will not get from this team from the African Development Bank, combined with our own team capacity and capability, and then we also don't have any shortage globally to look for expertise. So bear with us. We'll make it. This is how it is after the Africa Climate Summit, but we are going to move into that direction. But we appreciate the KICC and even its management and even this location, that it allows us within this location to access so many hotels. That's the beauty of the location. Let me assure you that the government of Kenya, as the host country, is committed to jointly working with the bank to ensure successful meeting in May 2024 as we progress, because there will be subsequent visits, subsequent interventions, or even subsequent meetings to make sure that we monitor everything. I do believe things will work very well. But we'll start by, of course, making sure that we provide the venue, including the conference halls, meeting rooms, offices, office spaces, and even associated equipment and facilities that may be required. And we'll keep revising this as we continue meeting. The second thing is that we are going to facilitate protocol and port entry courtesies for the bank group, governors, and even participants, because most of the people who are coming in, majority coming from the African region, are our colleagues. The others coming from the international community are both members of the bank, investors in the bank, shareholders in the bank, but also our partners in development, and in totality, because of belonging to the same institution, they are our partners. We want to make sure that we'll be identifying and providing and even communicating to the bank the suitable accommodation for participants. We did agree with the Secretary General that we are going to have a site that even allows us to parade the hotels, including their pricing, so that we do not want them to take advantage of the visitors, isn't it? But also, they can make the optimal choice of location. We have massive facilities in terms of hotels in this Nairobi city. And transport system has actually worked. Even if you decide to stay just near the airport, you'll find that it takes you only 15 minutes to get here. So many people of my friends in Africa always say that it took me 3 hours to get to Nairobi from the airport. That is now history. Let's rewrite the new history. Is actually it took you 15 minutes. So you have a choice. We have to show that choice. But our friends and dear colleagues, nobody knows there is a choice unless we show it, isn't it? So that website should be rich enough to give you even an avenue to negotiate a price if you need to do that, isn't it? And even mapping. So that is something that we really need to do. In this age of communication, things will work very well. And we also want to make sure that all the security and protocol issues, including safety of all participants, will be taken care of by the government. We will facilitate registration and accreditation to all participants before the annual meeting ahead of time so that preparations go hand in hand. I'm sure we are almost getting there, saying that we should not have people looking for visas coming to Kenya. I don't know at what point, because we have said that Kenya is actually the origin of humankind. So when you are coming at the airport, we'll be telling you, please welcome home. This is your home. So we'll continue doing that. In most countries where we do not have, we have not facilitated that aspect of free entry, we will try to map it out as soon as possible and work with everybody else. And we also want to make sure that we contribute actively to the physical and virtual arrangements of annual meetings, because there are people who may not come, but they may require virtual meetings. We will have screens, and all the digital platforms that we have are very, very adequate. And of course, providing local transport for the bank teams and even dignitaries is also going to be a very good responsibility that we want to make sure that we do, including providing furniture, office equipment, all that, computers, and even facilities that are required. We'll continue populating that list in terms of what will be required. So we have no shortage in terms of what we can do. I recall not long ago, last month, we had Africa Climate Summit. We had 23 presidents. You can imagine it was quite heavy, but we managed very well seamlessly. We are going to do that virtually for this meeting. So we will make sure that we provide all the required infrastructure, both for communication, even physical infrastructure. And again here, Nairobi is also rich in terms of virtual networks. You don't have a shortage of that. And the host country shall draw up in consultation with the bank social and cultural programs for participants and even their spouses. And we also make sure that we organize welcome reception as well as cultural events for all participants where necessary, and we will agree on that menu with the delegation from the African Development Bank. I want to reassure you on behalf of the government of Kenya that we are fully committed and dedicated to supporting the African Development Bank vision and strategy, and specifically in the preparation of the 2024 annual meetings. I've managed to go to so many annual meetings of the African Development Bank myself in my different capacities in my whole life. And I can tell you that we can map out the experiences, very nice experiences, and here we want to make sure that we have comfortable packaging of what is required. It's not a competition. We are not going to compete with the previous or make sure that we are creating our space for the future. No. We'll make sure that everybody will be comfortable and memorable, that even when you are not in the annual meeting, you come back to Kenya, those who will be visiting us, they will have a memorable remembrance of what has happened. So the government of Kenya looks forward to the second preparatory mission of the African Development Bank Group, led by my friend, Professor. By the way, I don't know, it's not a coincidence we are both professors. It's the whole issue that 2 hours of duty takes us in different places, and we interact with different people so that we consolidate our experiences, and that's why we find ourselves here. He has organized 8 annual general meetings. This will be the 9th one. This will be the 8th. So we cannot fail him, isn't it? We want to make sure that his CV crimes that ladder it is taking, we should not fail him. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we work not to fail him, but we also work to provide the most best foot forward in this case. And I do believe we are going to have a successful 2024, May 2024 annual meetings of the World Bank, African Development annual meetings, African Development annual meetings, not World Banks, sorry. But again, the second meeting, we will show our progress. We will make sure that we have significant progress on the issues we have agreed. We have a list of so many issues that we have agreed. The MoU, by the way, it is a Memorandum of Understanding. So there should be no misunderstanding. So we will make sure that we tick the box so that in February, you come and then say, we are confirming the Memorandum of Understanding on the issues we agreed, and we are progressing towards our May meeting. Is that not a commitment? It is a Memorandum of Understanding, provides commitment, but it has to be rechecked and see that you are progressing along those sides. So I'm happy to make that commitment on behalf of the Republic of Kenya. I'm happy to make that commitment because the National Treasury and Economic Planning docket is the one that leads the way. We are being supported by interministerial and even interministerial team as well as government agencies, so we cannot fail. We have adequate information, and we'll reach out even to the private sector where we need them to come in at the stage we want. So thank you very much and for appreciating that. Thank you for choosing us, African Development Bank, and thank you for working together.